Welcome to Hot Takes, our lightning round version of fired up conservative talk. I am William del Pilar, your conservative Latino that swims daily in the ocean of liberal sharks. I live in California. You can understand. We've got a wide range of stories tonight that spans the globe, and we cut right through the spin with truths, ugly or not. We'll kick off with what Americans really think about voter ID. It's not really shocking. But then we'll jump to Trump's big win in Panama, what I call the homeland, pushing China out of the canal, and what I believe are Beijing's empty threats. And from there, we'll hit Chinese Communist Party linked students burrowed into our universities and Mexico's consulates acting less like diplomats and more like political operatives. And we'll also dig into the Washington Post meltdown for a new billionaire sugar daddy. Will you, Poppy, give us some money? Then we'll pivot to two brutal stories about our broken institutions. A UCLA predator doctor actually getting a do-over on a technicality, and a young detransitioner winning millions after doctors rushed her into irreversible surgery. So hold on to your seats. This is going to move fast. All right, let's bring in our guest for the night, and that is going to be our regular panelist, Mr. G. Mangani, the G Man,
Hey.
and Miss Annette Ross. So, G, what's that row mean? Row.
It's a hat for our school.
What school? Oh, your kids' school?
Yeah.
Okay,
Ringing.
They're handing out hats to donors.
what's it called? How do you say it, row or row?
Row.
And what do I have here? Well,
You
something
got
to
some
remind you to get your wife tomorrow.
Oh, it's actually, I gotta call my folks after we chat tonight. Everybody have been married for 61 years.
Wow. They got married on Valentine's Day?
No, 12. Their anniversary was yesterday. But my brother's taking them all over the place, and he's at the age now. In the evenings, he's done. So the last 2 days, my brother's been there, and they've been, going everywhere, visiting friends, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll probably give him a call tomorrow. I used to be the favorite son. All right, so we've got a slate tonight, and we're going to start it off, guys, with voter ID. Americans overwhelmingly want it, even as Democrat leaders are flat out lying about it and trying to fight it and reject it. And they're playing the same old trope, the race card, across. So this transcends party lines, race, ages, and even most Democrat Americans are strongly backing voter ID. Again, leadership in the Democrat Party and activist groups are opposing it. Why? It's their base. They want their base of illegal aliens to eventually be able to vote. And that's what this boils down to. Gallup's 2026 and 2024 polling shows roughly 8 in 10 Americans favor requiring a photo ID to vote. That's around 79 to 84%, depending on the year and the question of the wording. The point being, it's been consistent and it's growing. So there's an AP NORC survey, AP-NORC survey, that also found 72% of Americans in favor and only 13 opposed. So that's two different polls. And then there's other polls that are saying the same thing. Then it's broken down by race, ethnicity, and gender. 80% of white adults, and in the high 70s for people of color, meaning Latino, Black, Asian, etc. So roughly 69 to 70% of Black voters, about 2/3 of Hispanic voters, and around 70% of white voters favor voter ID. That's one poll. And even the academics, who we all know are not Trump friendly, even academic polling, 70% of white respondents, 66% of Hispanic respondents, and 56% of Black respondents wants it. Let's break it down by age. In the 60s and 70s, among under 30 voters, it climbs into the 80% range. Oh, I'm sorry, I said that right. In the 60s and 70s, among under 30 voters, the percentage. And that climbs into middle-aged and senior voters being about 80%. That's age. So off of gender, it's often within a few points of each other. Usually it's in the mid 70s to low 80s for both. And when there are differences, men are a bit more likely to support it versus women. So before I get to the talking point, uh, uh, give me your initial thoughts, and then I want to show a couple of videos. We'll start with G.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing you didn't mention is how it's split between Democrats and Republicans, and the Democrat, I'm talking
Oh,
the
that's
people,
coming
not.
up. That's coming up, G. Let's not get ahead of
All
ourselves.
right, all right, got it. So my initial thought is, I think it's a settled issue, and I think most people who realize that the rest of the world, when they vote, they have to present some ID. Realize that this is the way you got to secure democracy. You can't just let people come in. So I will talk about Biden bringing in people, claiming quote unquote asylum. A lot of them. Well, they were given food cards, so they could buy food for free, put up in the fanciest, schmanciest hotels in New York City. And now Mamdani's coming out saying, "Oh well, Mayor Eric Adams left me a $12 billion debt pile." Well, a lot of that was because Biden brought all these people in, and our government's paying for them. So when you think about these guys, well, what's stopping them from showing up to a polling place and saying, "Yeah, my name is Bob Smith," and they're not taking ID, and they can't. They just have to take their word for it. So somebody said, well, you also have to give them your address. Well, you can't find that stuff out and just fake that you're Bob Smith. I mean, even a woman saying I identify as Bob Smith. I mean, people know that our democracy is ripe for abuse, and we got to prove there will always be fraud, right? But people showing up to vote in county who needs a vote, or how we spend our money, the policies. Yeah, I'm an American citizen, and I have the right to vote for this kind of stuff.
Annette. Oh, I'm sorry. Before you go, G. Mamdani lied, and Mayor Adams actually left him with about a projected. I want to say, you're right. It was about 12 billion. He says he inherited.
Yeah.
And Mamdani says it's a deficit, not a surplus, and that's not settled right now in terms of he's saying he inherited these billions in debt. That may be more of a ploy to continue to raise taxes. He came out today talking about having to raise taxes again. I'm sorry, Annette, go ahead.
I guess it's sort of a common sense approach to it. How many things you need an ID for? I mean, look what that happens to you now when you go to the airport. How they have to take a picture of you too. You have to show your ID, and now if you don't have your, the new IDs, you get
A
to get
real ID.
this new ID that I don't have yet that I need to get. Then you're like in another line, and they're checking you out. It's just like the IDs that you need for the simplest things. And I think I saw a list recently. There was like 20 things you need an ID for, but you don't need an ID to vote. So it really sort of makes it obvious why they don't want it, because in every other way, we're like surveilled and tracked, and you know what I'm saying? And this one way, it's all very ambiguous.
Correct. All right, let's check out this video by our favorite. The only thing that helps CNN's worst
Ratings?
ratings they've had in 8 years. The only thing that's actually, they're sinking, but the one that it's like Harry Enton. He's swimming up, and there's this big weight. The rest of CNN on his legs keep pulling him down because he's the only thing worth listening to. All right, so this is Harry Enton on the demographics.
Take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of Black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote. So something I mean, not. Take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote.
All right. So obviously we all recognize it. The data shows it. Everybody wants it. The quick question I have for you guys before we move on to the party line is this illegal votes cancel disenfranchise actual voters because an illegal vote will cancel out a proper vote by a legal citizen. But the question is, how do we convince the voters to make this an election issue? Because I'm not sure this current bill, which may or may not go through, I am shockingly happy at the fact that the Senate Republicans are only 2 individuals short of doing their own filibuster, which that triggers something to kind of put it to the floor, So they're only 2 away, And my take is Trump needs to go bring in the couple of those Democrats who are riding the hot seat and goes, the Republican Party will not go after you if you support this and vote for this, because that's going to ensure fair elections across the country. And that's how politics are done. So, gee, again, as I said last week, put on those consulting caps on.
Well,
let's say it doesn't pass. How do we convince the public to make it an issue?
Yeah. So if you ever watch those man on the street interviews and you got this guy going out there asking white liberal people, and I'm talking the 20% that don't believe in voter ID, and they'll say, well, this is just a way to disenfranchise people because, and this is their racist words, black people don't know where the DMV is, or black people don't know how to get a photo ID, right? That's what these white liberals say. And so that's their thinking. The same man on the street will go and ask a black person, they're saying you don't know where the DMV is or how to get a photo ID, and they're highly offended, rightfully so. And they're like, what do they think we're stupid? Like, what's the genesis behind that thinking? So the way to neutralize that even thinking of even the minority of Democrats is just to give out free driver's licenses, right? Now you say, okay, get a driver's license, prove who you are, but you get it for free instead of paying whatever it is, $35 or whatnot. So the federal government would pay the state government to give out the free driver's licenses for those who don't have them, and upon renewal. You take that away as an issue. Now it's no longer a quote poll tax because, what some of these liberals will say is for minorities, $35. Man, how can they afford that?
Exactly.
How ridiculous of a statement is that?
All right, Annette, Annette, put on your thinking cap.
Well, I have a sort of different take on it because you were basically asking G and myself, how to make that an issue with the American public. And
Right.
I think it's not an issue because they go back to they don't see how it connects to their other issues. Like when you talk to people about what bothers them, right? They talk about housing, they talk about prices of food.
Okay, Annette, you're
Yes.
absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct.
Yeah,
But
but
you're not answering the question. You're being
wasn't
paid as a consultant.
yeah.
How do we make this an election issue? That's the question. I mean, I'm not challenging you. I'm saying we agree with you. That's why it's a tough issue. So how do you make it an issue?
Mm. I mean, it honestly, it was never an issue in my mind till I started on Fired Up with you because you talk about it all the time. Because I never really thought that elections were not fair. I have to be honest with you. As an American citizen, it never really crossed my mind.
Again, you are correct. Answer
So,
the question.
but how
But that is the answer. Elections are not fair, and that's right.
But that's not the answer. We want to make this an issue. So how do you make it an issue?
do you get people to care about it?
Yes.
Let's go. I would ask you, how do you think you make people care about it? How do you connect that to the things that really affect their life? Because I don't think people make that connection.
See, we have good chemistry. Yeah. Make sure Bill doesn't see this. He'll go, I don't like that chemistry. So this is how I would present it.
Oh,
Because as a Latino, I don't get angry for myself because I'm never mistaken for a Latino, but I get angry at how they view minorities in general. And this is how I would present it. And this is an off the cuff answer. Thank you, G, for reminding me.
you think they're being deprecating? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
I'm Ami Horowitz, and I'm here in Berkeley, California to find out if voter ID laws suppress the black vote.
Berkeley, California.
Do you have an opinion on voter ID laws?
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad. I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
Would you go as far as say those laws are racist?
For sure.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely. Because they're
And now it begins. I will be cutting and clipping these portions.
less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy
These type of people.
access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs you do over the internet. Does that also would make it difficult for black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service.
They too po to be able to afford the internet. But let me tell you something. Every damn kid in the third world country is on the internet. So what makes Americans too dumb and too po to afford it?
Provided for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works.
A lot of people have
They don't have
Oh my gosh.
how it
Highly
works.
offensive.
It's so bad.
smartphones, but you might not have data.
For most of the communities, they don't really know what is out there just because they're not aware or they're not
Say, Massa, I'm not aware. How'd that work? That's what they're saying.
informed.
I would hate
also
what she
think
thinks
there's
about
a
me.
repression of like black voting with how if you're a convicted felon, like you're not allowed to vote and everything. And when you look at swing states like Florida, that's a huge population of the like African Americans.
All you African Americans, criminals! Y'all criminals! That's what she's saying.
Now I'm here in East Harlem to ask Black people.
And for people who say, William, I'm not too sure if that strategy would work to showcase these people as showing people of color as dumb. Here's why it would work.
Their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you have ID normally? You carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any Black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has an ID. Why would they think we don't have ID?
That's a lie. Why would they say that?
Do you have ID?
Why would they say that? Because they think
Totally
you're
offended.
stupid.
Totally
That's
offended.
why.
In shock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I have my ID and my friends have their ID. So, like, we know what we need to carry around.
Anybody that I know have ID. Like, that's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with.
Do you know any Black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
And that's the death knell right there. No, I don't know. Everybody has ID. As you said earlier, Annette, you need ID for literally everything.
Is it a weird thing to even say that?
Yes, it is.
What is this? Some type of trick candy camera?
I know, right?
That's my favorite. Is this candy camera?
That's the only thing I brought with me.
Those are legit IDs. I heard a lot also that Black people can't figure out how to get to the DMV. What does that say to you?
I know it's at on 25th Street.
I had to look up where the DMV was because I had to get my real ID and driver's license. I mean, but him, Black people, they don't know. According to these leftists, and that man whips it out quickly. I know where it's at.
The DMV is around you?
It's on 125th Street and 3rd Avenue, I believe.
You know how to get there?
Yeah.
Did you have a problem getting there if you had to get there?
Oh.
I know these sound like silly questions. You know how to get to DMV?
Of course.
You know where it is?
Yes.
You can get there?
Uh-huh.
No problem.
No problem.
Just checking.
Okay.
And I also heard a lot that Black people, especially poor Black people, have no access to the internet, can't figure out how to use the internet.
That's it.
Think about that. Gee, you said it was offensive, but hearing it again, it's like, oh my, as the young kids say, OMG.
It's terrible.
Stupidity, honestly. Everybody has access to the internet. Even a little kid can figure out how to work the internet.
I've had access to the internet for years.
You know how to use it properly, right?
Exactly. I do it at work. So, of course, I know how to use it. My
Smart.
kids know how to use it.
Ooh,
They
I
all
love
have
her accent.
iPads, iPods.
Your phone has data?
Limited.
Unlimited data.
Did you see her? Did you see that policeman jersey? Those liberals aren't going to like her wearing that. Are they going to chastise her for that?
My phone is a hotspot.
What does that say to you for the people who have this perception of Black people?
A hotspot. Do you know what that is?
Yes, I do.
How about you, G?
Yeah.
All right, just checking. Just checking.
Even us brown people know what hotspots are.
Yeah. I was just trying to be polite and ask you. I knew you knew, Annette. I wasn't sure if G knew.
They're pretty much ignorant. That's my thought process.
He's being kind, calling them ignorant. I will call them what they are, racist.
That's all.
Not the Black people, the people talking about the Black people. the
Right,
white
right, yeah.
people.
The Berkeley
think that's
Berkeley
ignorant?
college students.
Ignorant.
Ignorant. That's the word
Very,
I'm hearing
very
a lot.
ignorant.
Ignorant.
Very, very ignorant.
Does it sound racist for somebody to say that?
I think it is a little racist because, you know, you're putting people in a category and you have no idea what you're talking about.
She's
Maybe
being
a little
polite.
bit racist in it, but like I said, I think it's more stupidity and ignorance. Judges.
Quick vote. I think it's stupidity and ignorant, but it's subliminal racist because they think they're superior.
Yep.
Any disagreement? All right.
But you judging them because they Black, saying that they don't got it.
People are they talking to? Who are these people talking to?
Do you have a problem that if you go to vote and they say, "Can we please see your ID to make sure you are who you say you are?" Are you
Love showing my ID.
You got no problem with that?
Nope.
She must be under 21. And if a woman loves showing her ID, it must say 28. 21 if she's younger.
Would you have a problem if when you go to vote, if they say, "Can we please just see your ID to make sure you are who you say you are?" Do you have an issue with that?
No.
Would you have a problem if there was a rule where you had to show your ID in order to vote?
I don't think so. No.
Would you have an issue if there was a rule saying you got to show your ID before you vote?
Nah.
You cool with that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Bob. Everyone, that is Ami Horowitz. Look him up. Great videos. I really enjoy his work. He goes undercover. He was, just to give you guys an idea, he was on a boat coming over, going to England or somewhere. He was with all the immigrants, and they were Muslims, and he's Jewish. So, you take a risk on that alone. But to answer your question, Annette, that's how I would fight it. There is nothing more derogatory to a minority than somebody who looks down on you. And we don't care if you're looking down on us because you're naive and ignorant. It's just treat us with respect and equality at the same time. Not like you're a mother hen. And these are 16, 18, these are college kids. Y'all just too stupid, too stupid, too stupid.
But William, look, they were surprised that people thought that.
That's why it would be the campaign.
Right.
Get that message out. Going back to last week, Elon, I know where you can spend some of those billions.
No,
But I mean,
yeah.
he should be the most offended as an African. Elon, South African. You get the joke
Right,
there.
right.
All right. So that's actually, so I digress. We fell 5 minutes behind because that's 4 minutes. But it was an important question because you were struggling to answer it. And most people struggle to answer it. When the reality is, it's an Alinsky tactic. You attack the messenger. You attack these individuals who we just want to help. You attack them. You rich, old, white, elitist fool. You're a minority, Mrs. or Mr. Democrat. You're living large. You know your people. Why are you calling your own people stupid? Why you attack them. You make it an issue. That's the problem with the Republican Party. Again, as you and I were debating, which I made into a quick short at Grumblings Media at YouTube and Rumble, people, about fighting fair and immorality. In fact, I posted both of your guys' shorts up there, snippets on that. All right, let's keep moving here. But real quick before we move on, comments with my strategy and what I present. Twofold question. My strategy, how I would present it. Any comments on that? And two, your take on that video, Annette. Does it change your mind in terms of maybe that's how we take care of it?
Yeah, actually, that was real. That was actually very enlightening for me because it was so insulting how they were talking.
Exactly.
It was so insulting. And they're like, "What do you mean?" And so then when he actually was going to go back to them and say, "Do you think that people say that you don't know where the DMV is or whatever?" And they're like, "Wow, these people are ignorant, and these people are, maybe borderline racist or full on racist. They don't know what they're talking about." I was glad he came back with that second round where he sort of explained what people were saying about them. You know what I mean?
Oh, he showed them. That was off camera, but he was
Okay.
showing them the
Oh,
video.
that was
Yeah.
probably shocking. So I guess, William, it's a great strategy. It's a fantastic strategy. And it just supports what you showed us earlier, that the statistics show that in every group, 82%, 79%, they all want voter ID. It's not really an issue, like you said.
Exactly. But we can't get it past. All right. Twofold here. I'm going to show this image. Quick 10-second comment from you guys. And I'm going to show the Harry Ensign again on the party lines. Quick question on that. Then we've got to move on. All right.
Okay.
So here we go. We've also, and to the audience, we've talked about these topics, and that's right. I bring this up every time it's in the news. We've talked about this specifically. These are the states that Kamala won versus ID requirement. And some of these states, they claim they have ID requirement, but you can challenge it. You sign an affidavit, and you vote, and your vote goes in, and they ship it in. And most of the times those votes go in and get counted. And if there's any argument, you can't pull the vote out. That's the strategy Democrats are using. Does that happen every single time? No. There's a few that, that affidavit, he's probably conservative. Toss it out. Yeah. So, I mean, look at this. That's Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, New Mexico. What state is it? Is that Minnesota? No. What state is my cursor on?
New Mexico, right?
No, that's New Mexico here. I'm over here. Yeah.
Virginia, Illinois, Minnesota, what? Maine?
Yeah, all the states here. They're too small for us to see. But you see, these are all no ID required. They're all blue states. Every single one.
Delaware. Where are you looking?
I was looking right here in the middle, starting at the Midwest, right below Minnesota. Oh, that's Illinois.
Illinois, where I'm from. Chicago.
Yeah, so, and then Virginia, all the way up the East Coast. These are all states. Any issues with me saying I believe Trump could have won some of those states if not for voter ID. And we've seen this in California. The Republican will be leading by 200,000 votes. Boom, switch. And boom, after a metropolitan district has been counted. And it got so bad, to remind y'all, in the 2024 election, watching, and literally everybody had already said, yeah, Trump's going to win. And there was MSNBC. Well, we're not going to be calling the winner yet. We've still got the metropolitan area of Milwaukee to come in. They got what do they call those the thumb drives coming in. I'm like, yeah, they're hoping there's enough fixed votes in there to flip it. And even that's why Trump kept saying too big to rig. There are limitations to the cheating. And Trump, that was his whole goal. get so many votes out there that it would be too big to rig. All right, let's go to the next one. And this is Harry Enton. This was what G was trying to talk about before I stopped him. My party.
Photo ID to vote, and the American people are with Nicki Minaj. Because what are we talking about here? So
he loves saying Nicki Minaj
He
like he
does.
knows her. Yeah.
take a look here. Favorite voter ID to vote. Look, I got all this polling on the screen going back.
See right there. See that? That's all my numbers. They encompass these years. Look at that. He's going to say it, but just so the audience, so he doesn't go through too quickly. 76, 81, 83. And it's become 83. We can talk about this, but I just want to throw it out and put it in your head. It became 83% because some Democrats, a lot of Democrats think that there were a lot of fraud votes for Trump, despite the fact we don't control 80% of those precincts.
Since 2018. You'll notice on all of it, it's all north of 75%. 76%, 76%, 76%, 81%, and then 83% in the last year of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote.
What about by party? What's the party break?
Yeah, normally.
So do y'all agree with Nicki Minaj?
Yeah.
I'll say this, that woman still looks
Shockingly.
beautiful. She's got a 17-year-old kid.
Shockingly, I agree with Nikki.
You might expect, hey, there'd be a big divide by party with Republicans really for it and Democrats really against it, but not really here. I mean, just take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. You got 95% of Republicans, pretty much all of them, but even 71% of Democrats favor photo ID to vote. So again, Nicki Minaj posting that on X, and what you see is that the American people, actually, it's not really all that controversial. The American people are with Nicki Minaj, whether they are Republican or even if they are Democrats. We're talking about 7 in 10 Democrats agreeing with Nicki Minaj that you, in fact, should show a voter photo ID to vote.
What's the
Photo ID to vote, and the American people with Nicki Minaj.
Question. Couldn't that be Ricky Ricardo's son right there? I'm like looking at him like, hey, Desi Hernandez Jr. All right, guys.
Grandson.
Yeah, exactly. He was quite the player. That's kind of what ended that relationship to a degree. All right, guys.
Better now.
So, no, she kind of said that. So, access problems are solvable by policy issues, as G pointed out. But the truth of the matter is, everybody has ID. So, I'm not going to go to make IDs free, mobile, automatic, because G already mentioned that. That's a possibility. But the truth of the matter is, and that, as you said, we have to have ID for everything. We saw Harlem. They all have ID there. Right now, the new battle is married women and the name changes, which has never been a problem in our society ever. Now it's going to be a problem for voting. A lot of seniors don't know how to access their birth certificate. Yes, but they have kids, or they can go on the internet, and you can do it through the internet as well to access. So everything's accessible. So they're throwing the gender card out, and they're throwing the race card out, and they're throwing the age card out and calling all these people stupid. So they've gone from just blacks to the women who are too stupid to know how, and old people are too stupid to know how. Annette and G, let's have a 20-second take here. Annette, start with you. In that sense, they've changed tactics. Now they're saying seniors are too old, don't know how, and women with their maiden names will be denied the ability to vote.
I think it's interesting because he just said that even 71% of Democrats, because I think what you said earlier is true. I think they think that we're rigging it after the last Trump election. So honestly, maybe they're going to start to feel more inclined that if they feel like it can go both ways, that they will be more inclined to say, you know what, the only way we're going to really know what happens in an election if we have these voter IDs. That was very hopeful. 1%, pretty good.
Yes.
What 2000, 2004, 2016, and 2024 have in common is Democrats saying the elections were stolen. So we want to help you, those who think it's stolen, to make sure that they're not stolen by making sure that everyone who is able to vote are the ones voting. And by the way, California is trying to pass a law that says ICE, immigration enforcement, cannot operate at polling places. Now, what does my state government know that I don't know? Just someone tell me.
Translate that to the audience. What G's saying is, if there aren't any illegals and they can't vote, what's the problem with having ICE near the polling stations? It shouldn't matter. So what G has described is a Linsky tactic, or rule number 4. make the enemy live up to its own book of rules. Voter ID enjoys 70 to 80% support across parties, including most Democrats. The opposition contradicts their protect democracy rhetoric. So you use this to call out the Dem leaders. You use this to attack them. You take ads, blast it in ads. 80% of African Americans want voter ID. 80% of Latinos. You shove this. You get your operatives in the media. It becomes a daily issue. Why do Democrats win a lot? Why do 60% of the Democrats still believe it was Republicans, or America think it was Republicans' fault of the last shutdown? Despite the lies, Megyn Kelly, Tucker, Patrick Bet-David, they all say, the mainstream media is dead. It's not, because they kept blasting it every single day. Why are we losing the Epstein narrative? Because they're blasting it every single day. You do that with this. All right, let's move on. Let's just spend a couple of minutes on this. Panama Boots, this did not make the news. And from a strategic standpoint, for the Don Roe Doctrine, this is extremely important. Panama Supreme Court voided a China-linked port deal at the Panama Canal after pressure from President Trump, and it's triggering a furious political and economic threats coming from Beijing. So in essence, people, what happened is the Panama Supreme Court ruled at the end of January that the long-term port concession held by Panama Ports Company, which is a subsidiary of Hong Kong-based CK Hutchison, was unconstitutional. And for those of you not aware, the Panama Canal during any wartime scenario is a strategic point for battle, to get your troops from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific and back, or else you'd have to go all the way down around the tip of South America. I want to say the Horn of what? Horn of Magellan? Is that what it is down there? I did that.
Drake Passage down there.
I actually did that. Beautiful.
You said
beautiful.
that Africa or South America?
South America.
Drake Passage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they ruled that. Now they're voiding the original 1997 concession and its extensions. And this is jeopardizing a proposed $23 billion sale of CK Hutchison's, per what Beijing and everybody's saying. It's not. They wanted to do the sale. Beijing told CK Hutchison, you will not do this jail. So if anybody has screwed Beijing over, it's CK Hutchison over, it's Beijing. Right. Because at the end of the day, this is still sovereign land owned by Panama. It's no different than Hong Kong and China. Give us our land back. And that we're going to give it to you by this date wasn't really a deal UK many did not want to make, but they knew the threat of China just going in and taking it over, and they didn't want to deal with that. This threat is the U.S. backing Panama. So that's why I believe these are hollow threats coming from Beijing. This is part of the Don Roe Doctrine. This is part of our hemisphere. So I think all these threats coming from China are pretty much empty. And I think this is a good move. So with China coming out and starting a heavy, they stated a heavy price will be paid. What does this really mean? And is this the first test of the Don Roe Doctrine, with Beijing coming out publicly saying you're going to pay a price, Panama? Gee.
No, so the Panama Canal is getting backed up. All these ships trying to get through, they can only have so many ships pass through depending on the rainfall, right? Because these locks get filled up with water from the higher elevations. So when you think of that, well, you basically have American ships or Chinese ships using that canal at any one time. So interestingly enough, Mexico is actually creating or reinvigorating their rail line that goes across one of the skinniest sections of Mexico, so that you can offload on the western coast and take the train, have all your goods go to the eastern coast, and then load a ship there, and to do it within a day or two. Whereas Panama Canal, you could get backed up there for a week and you'll be waiting offshore on the west side. So I think China and America, they're both fighting to have more of our ships get through that. And in the end, Panama's closer to America. I mean, China gets more of their goods through because more people buy Chinese goods, but think that they're a lot lower cost goods, and America has way more money to pay the canal tax or the canal fees than China does. In the end, like you said, China is just, barking in the wind, because in the end, Panama's going to side with America.
And your thoughts, is Washington reasserting itself in the Western Hemisphere with Venezuela and now Panama?
I love this topic, and I've been diving in deep, William. And I really respect, I'm sure and I read his book recently, or actually a year ago now, Victor Davis Hanson. I think you really like him too. Um, and he always talks about what's happening in the world, sort of like that game of Risk. I don't know. Did you play the game of Risk? I mean, it was like so if I'm looking at it from that perspective right now, I do feel like, and someone else said this is a lot smarter than me, but I sort of have to agree, like we're a little bit not pre-World War II picture, but like a pre-World War One picture where I feel like anything could just tip the scale and put the world like spinning in terms of like, so yeah, do I think that China's threats are hollow? I mean, maybe. Like I have no way to really know that, but I think that after Davos, when I was listening, I think I watched almost all the speeches in Davos. The world is changing. Donald Trump is one of the main instigators, I think, of that change. He's talking Greenland. He's talking Venezuela. He's got the Don Road doctrine. I really wish he wouldn't have changed it to his name because I think that's a little narcissistic. But okay, whatever.
It's not a little, it's a lot narcissistic.
Yeah, I hate that in a leader. I really think leaders require humility. Okay, but anyway, that's an aside. But yeah, I think we're at a very concerning place in terms of like the risk game. And I think any little thing could be the thing that tips the scales and puts us into like, a full on greater and dangerous conflict. This might just be a very small thing, but I could be wrong.
You're absolutely correct, but it's a hollow threat because China is hurting economically. They're hurting with their own population growth, just as we are with no birth. They are completely dependent on they're not completely, but a big thrust of their economy is built off of our companies over there.
Yep.
So they can't risk that. So they're going to look at Panama. They're going to go, well, that's a big blow. Do we want to face off with the U.S. over Panama, which is the country they created, allowed to come into existence, that they've had a relationship, and that's not in our hemisphere. And then economically, we take an even potential bigger blow. But you are right. We are ramping it up. Trump is slowly getting us into a necessary Cold War to save our own economy. We can't keep going trillions of dollars into debt. We are now at risk of losing the dollar as a monetary, what's the term? Monetary standard.
The reserve currency.
The reserve daddy who spoiled his kids after World War II, Europe, and the rest of the world with handouts after handouts. And now they're adults who can live on their own, Europe, who still want handouts. And daddy and mama are like, we're broke. Y'all suck the life out of us. Well, you got to keep feeding us. And Trump's saying, as Roberto Duran infamously said, no mas. So you are correct, but it's a necessity. We've got to tilt it. We've got to tilt it to be a little bit more even. All right, let's keep moving. Chinese students with CCP ties and military ties infiltrate U.S. universities. A watchdog group has been warning about this. So, a watchdog report says Chinese Communist Party linked and military tied students and scientists are embedded in U.S. universities working on sensitive U.S. funded research with clear dual use military potential. An inside story. I had a Chinese student when I was a kid. They lived with us for a while. My sister, they always pair them up with somebody, and they live with us. And even as a kid, because of the way we were raised, our history, my first thought was like, well, isn't she a communist? Isn't she going to learn everything that she's learning here about our rockets and take that back to China? So even as a child, I mean, I was probably in high school at that point. I mean, I was able to understand that. So this is not just something that's brand new. So nearly 2 dozen Chinese academics at elite U.S. universities and labs who, because of CCP membership, PLA-linked schooling, or work with blacklisted Chinese firms, and it says they should be expelled. Now, these Chinese students and scientists are working at institutions such as Harvard, Carnegie Mellon, Cornell, Brown, Purdue, Georgia State, high-end universities that have U.S. government-funded research. We're talking research that includes drones, robotics, exoskeletons, artificial intelligence, large language models, advanced materials, next-gen semiconductors, quantum sensing, nuclear materials, grid technology, and viral research on highly infectious pathogens. Think COVID. And they're frequently funded by DOE, Department of Energy, NSF, NIH, DARPA, the Army, Navy, and Air Force. So we're talking, just looking at it logically, guys, why is the U.S. still allowing CCP members and PLA-linked scientists to infiltrate elite universities? And worse, often on U.S. taxpayer-funded research. So we're paying China to catch up to us and get ahead of us technologically through spying, because this directly affects our national security. We will start with you, Annette.
Is your question, why are we doing it?
Yes. I mean, we've never had Russian students, did we?
Well, I mean, it's funny. I was going to bring that up. We definitely did collaborate, as my uncle, who worked on the space shuttle, said, with the Russians. But it was like you said, it was a collaboration. It wasn't this idea that they were there sort of infiltrating and potentially stealing. So everyone's saying right now, whoever wins the AI race is going to be at the top of the heap. In terms of powers. So that is, I guess, a very important component of this. I don't know. There's a lot of pieces of this that, I mean, on the offset, the way you sort of frame the question, why would we? But my question back to you would be, how did they get here? Are they not loyal to the United States at all? Is it only just to bring in, intelligence and information back to China?
They're
And
foreign students, and to answer your question, they're foreign exchange students. So no, they do not have loyalty to us. And
they might appreciate getting an education here. Doesn't mean they're spies.
no, you're right. But the likelihood, statistically speaking, yes, it does mean they're spies. They're tied. They're tied to programs like Thousand Talents and 100 Talents, and to the Seven Sons of National Defense and SASTIN supervised institutions. These are blacklisted firms that the U.S. has warned about. They're Chinese programs. Some of the researchers have ties to these entities, including how do you say it? Huawei, the big phone company they have over there, and AVIC. So it doesn't take a rocket science to put it together.
I love
ties to confirm bad guy spy apparatuses doesn't mesh with you. What's the big deal? You're right. Not all of them, but I'd wager a lot. You need to read some books on World War II and the English elites and spying in Russia. They are so, this is similar to that type of stuff. They recruit them out of the education system, but they don't have to recruit these people. They just send them off to go learn. Gee, your thoughts, should we throw these individuals out in? Are we a pipeline? I mean, look who they're connected to.
Yeah, I know defense contractors, you have to be an American citizen to be able to work there, right? Because that's kind of understood. Like if you're an immigrant, you could take this technology back home with you, which is a danger and a risk to our national security. I would go one step further. So if we were talking about technologies that we're researching in these universities that could lead to breakthroughs militarily, which a lot of them are civilian and militarily, I would go one step further and say you have to be a natural born citizen, not just a citizen. Like I wouldn't be able to work on that because I was naturalized at the age of 20 something.
I thought you were saying 5 or 6. Bye.
I was a legal immigrant for a long time, and then I got naturalized in my 20s during college. What I would go one step further, and that would naturally exclude me. But again, not that I'm a threat, but a lot of people who moved here in their 20s and 30s could still be long-term spies. They get naturalized, and then they could still be funneling secrets home. That's how the Soviets got the H-bomb, right? Back in the 1949, I want to say. So I would go one step further, and I would want to caution anyone from racially profiling. It's not just Chinese. It's all different races. It could even be Americans being paid by, let's say, an Iranian government.
Correct.
Hey,
Correct.
give something this way. So you're always going to have that. But to reduce the risk, yeah, we should not be having foreign exchange students from countries that are our enemies and say, hey, look, why don't we try to figure out how to make our neutron bomb better? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Correct.
Is China our enemy? I'd love to know who you guys think our current enemies even are. Does anyone even know?
Oh my, China. Come on. You can't sit there and say that like that.
Say that like that, I think.
No, you can't. They sit there and say
The world is changing. The world is changing.
yes, and China's the newest enemy, China's a bigger threat than Russia. Gee, are you sure you're not a raw agent? Huh? Is that what it is? For those of you who don't know, RAW is India's research and analysis wing. That's their intel group, right?
Yeah, I mean, so India was an ally of the Soviet Union, and Pakistan was our ally, and then that kind of switched after time. So I don't think you can really trust anyone. Again, it just goes back to natural born, but at the very baseline, just American citizens can work on this stuff.
Correct. G brings up a great point, because what country stole the nuclear technology from us? that's supposedly our best ally.
The Israelites, right?
Israel.
Israel, right? Yeah, yeah.
Israel, exactly. So my take is I'm not a TDSer in the sense I hate Trump or I'm blindly supportive. Trump, bleep you, Trump. You came out and said, hey, we're okay with up to 600,000 Chinese students, coming in because these universities need the money. So they're selling out our country for money because a lot of these kids are going to be in these programs. And G, you're correct. Pakistan and India flip. You're at TDS, but
The TDS meter's low, so there's no TDS detected.
But everybody is technically our enemy. We have to keep our guard up because even our allies would like to get ahead because Panama competes with Central and South American countries. They all compete, so they can steal technology from the U.S. They will. China is not our friend. They are our enemy, but you can make business with your enemy too. That's how life works. Doesn't mean they're our allies or our friends. I say kick them all out. And now, a Democrat friend, why you racist, William? First of all, I got Asian in me, but no, because I'm American. It's like because I'm an American and I want to keep our country safe. All right, let's keep moving. The Mexican government, I just spent a minute or two on this one. The Mexican government denies Reconquista plot as Peter Schweizer cites consulate meddling in U.S. politics. So Peter Schweizer had a great book on the Clinton era, back when Obama was president. It exploded when it came out. People were clueless and they read the book, and he had facts. He had the data to back it up, and it blew up. He's got a new book called The Invisible Coup. And he challenges Mexico's denial of a reconquista, means reconquer, or interference strategy. He cites consulate activity and public statements. He shows that were coordinated anti-Trump political engagements inside the U.S. I remember when this came out. It did make the news that the Mexican consulates were working with groups on campaigns so Trump wouldn't get elected. In his book, The Invisible Coup, he alleges the Mexican government is using its 53 U.S. consulates to influence opinions and votes of Mexicans living in America. To extend this further, are you guys aware? I'm digressing, but just for a brief moment, this does happen. That Obama had commercials, had to come over and collect benefits. He had Spanish commercials that we were paying. I am Obama. I approve of these messages being shown in Mexico. So it's a Democrat and anti-conservative ploy. It was to get more immigrants here, was the end all game for this. Now, he's been asked to testify before Senate hearing. Claudia Sheinbaum, who's scared of the cartel and may have ties to the cartel, she categorically denies this. Mexico's ambassador denies this. So from 28% in 2016 to 48% in 2024, that's the decline in migration, immigrants coming over. That's what Mexico's saying. Well, if we were such a good program, why is there a decline? Well, it's not just about declining immigration from Mexico. It's about who to convince their voters that are of Mexican descent to vote for as well. Schweizer points to a Chicago consulate official. We are joining forces with anti-Trump organizations to fight the Trump administration. I remember when that came out, because that was one of the topics I was thinking, but I was like, oh, it's not making the news. So people, we're not going to talk about it. I specifically remember that. And he argues that neither Sheinbaum, the president, Moctezuma, has addressed the specific evidence. They've just given general statements. And he says that Mexicans are nervous about this. It was Clinton Cash and Secret Empires were the two books that blew up Washington and offering proof and data, and that created hearings of that nature. I got more stuff on it, but the bottom line, a proven track record is what Peter Schweizer has. #1 New York Times bestselling, 8-time author, including Clinton Cash, Red-Handed, Profiles in Corruption. His 2012 book, Extortion, exposed Congress. This is how we learned about why Nancy Pelosi was getting so rich. He exposed the insider trading. Technically, it's not insider trading, but in layman terms, that's what it is that they can legally do. So he's got the credentials. He's also a former Hoover institution where your guy, Victor Davis Hampton, is at, and my guy, Thomas Sowell, is at, and she doesn't have anybody except that Raw. So as we get deeper and deeper into this, it seems like we're uncovering more and more threats to our political system. Remember, Democrats and foreign powers never thought Trump would regain power. And because he's regained power, we're discovering these items. So here is the question. What are your thoughts about this? Is this nothing to look at, nothing to see here? No matter what I'm trying to ask here, this isn't huge. its consulates, but they are directly trying to affect our elections. Your thoughts on that, Annette? And then we'll go to G. I guess my question to you, Annette, is what's your thoughts on this?
You know what was interesting to me? Bad Bunny. This is related, by the way, because
I was
Bad
about to
Bunny,
say.
Bad Bunny, no, it is. Bad Bunny did the Super Bowl halftime, right? What, 110 million people watched it. And actually, a lot of the things that I read about that, people were pleased. And he was singing in Spanish. And I was like, wow, that is really, really interesting to me because our country has a lot of Latin people, right? It does. So I think this is actually an issue, and I'll also tell you why. And this is anecdotal, but not really, because I really am the kind of person who talks to and listens to a lot of people, and I feel like we had Latinos, they were a little more conservative, and I see them coming out with a lot of hate toward Trump. So something's getting to them. Something seems to be working.
Right. I know it makes sense. We are us Latinos. I mean, you said it as if I'm not Latino, but I'm Latino.
I know you are, but I'm saying like
No, I get it. I get it. You're correct. We are the fastest growing. I always joke to my friends, we're like cockroaches. We're everywhere, and we are everywhere, and we're growing. We are the fastest growing culture or ethnicity in terms of using the internet, et cetera, et cetera. G, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if you think of this from the viewpoint of other countries,
Mhm.
just think of India, right? They have different cultures, but overall they have one main culture, right? Or you think of this from Mexico's standpoint or China's standpoint. They have some kind of national identity. And you have to ask yourself, well, when they look at us, we are a melting pot or a hodgepodge of many different identities with maybe one main identity, but we have a lot of different identities. And so if they could somehow balkanize us, and the question is always, you watch these doomsday TV shows or movies, America's broken up. Right, and there's a Texan state, and or the nation, and then the Western nations allied with the Eastern nations, and you're, let's say, somebody in Mexico going, well, we can balkanize America. We can slowly take over their main identity and make it a bunch of separate identities, and then they'll be at each other's throats, which we've been starting to see for quite a while now, right?
Right.
And we saw that in the mid 1860s, right, with the Civil War. Is that possible that could happen again? So I don't put this beyond them to say, hey, maybe if we make this identity, look, this is the 250th year of America, and even the founding fathers didn't had their doubts that we would make it this far. But what were we celebrating at the Super Bowl? Like, that should have been, hey, let's celebrate 250 years of America. And we're celebrating our Latin culture part of America, right? Puerto Rico, which is part of America. That's what we're celebrating. And you have to ask yourself, well, what does that lead to in the long term? We're not talking about the 250th. Well, Trump will over the summer, but looks like the NFL, which we kind of thought would be like a man's man, American man, America, sport. We're not celebrating that. We're celebrating. I mean, I saw just some weird stuff during that halftime show where I'm like, we shouldn't be celebrating the 250th. I mean, we should have said
Right.
this for 251, right?
Right.
That was my
But
thought.
people watched it. That was the thing. I looked at the numbers afterward and I'm like, wow.
Actually, I
But that-
break down the data, and those numbers are quite a bit deceiving because they're adding to it. So just to give you guys a quick breakdown on that, I don't want to digress. We're at near
But it's
the 1 hour
important.
mark,
Yeah.
but so when they add in all this social media, all this internet type data, what they do, if you just look at it, swipe, and not even a couple of seconds, you swipe to something else, they count that. Yes,
Okay.
they count it. That's why advertisers don't care about that data. That is PR data. The truth of the matter is, over 20 some odd million people switched to the TPUSA. Bad Bunny's numbers are not great when compared to previous performances. But I'm glad you brought that up because I just got to show this. This is what people heard. This is great. Somebody took the music out, and this was Bad Bunny.
Tengo una mañana otra, ay, me la voy a llevar a todas pa' un VIP, ay, saludan a Titi.
Is that real?
Yes, yes. Now, why was he doing that?
I don't know.
Because he was lip syncing. He wasn't singing.
Oh,
You know, Michael
yeah.
Jackson. Remember him?
Yes.
Beat it. He was singing. I mean,
Beat it.
everything's so fake now, and it's a disgrace from this perspective. people at the Super Bowl didn't see nothing but a bunch of leaves, which is cool because if they had kids there, all they would have seen were women grinding on one another, you know? So, I'm going to try to get the buzzer beaters, our basketball show guests, because they loved it. It was wonderful. It was this as a minority, blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Which is fine.
Like,
Which is I'm
yeah,
all
it's
for
fine.
that.
It's
Just
no,
the 250th.
fine.
That's all. That's my complaint. Should have
It's
been
fine for
a different
them.
show.
Exactly, but it's not fine when you have what they're saying is they're okay with their kids if they have little kids to watch people grinding, to watch a lip sync, to watch somebody who wouldn't stand for the anthem to come here and sing. Why? Because you're a minority. No, I'm an American first. Period. End of story. I am proud of my Latino culture, and people will accuse of me at times. Well, you're Puerto Rican one day, Panamanian this. I'm like, yeah. Depending what that political issue deals with the Puerto Rican issue, yeah. The Puerto Rican side of me comes out to give my 2 cents. Panama with the canal, the Panamanian side comes out. Yeah, because I can do that. Yeah, it's it's like they don't like it when you disagree, so they look to tear you apart. But yeah, that's
Right.
because he was lip syncing, and to me, that's disgrace. Not on him. I mean, they don't even give a real Super Bowl show anymore.
Well, and let me give one point to what I was saying earlier. Like, yes, we celebrate a lot of cultures, and that's what makes us exceptional, right? That makes us a melting pot and makes us different from other countries. But I think other countries view that as an opportunity to balkanize us and weaken us, right? So that's
we're
where, as Americans, we need to be
All right,
careful.
I'm gonna get the last comment here because we got to keep moving on. But we are not a melting pot, people. If we were a melting pot, we wouldn't have the driver's license with 27 different languages. It wouldn't be unsafe to walk in little China, a little Haiti, little Cuba in certain spots because you're not of that cultural. So we stopped being a melting pot right around the 50s and 60s.
We need to bring back Schoolhouse Rock. That's
Yes,
then.
yes. But we're not a melting pot ever. If not, we wouldn't have all these clusters. We died for being a melting pot the day they sat there and said, you don't need to learn English. Because I'm sorry, language unites. How many people are the Latinos? Yeah, they sing Spanish. Hey, yes, yeah. Yeah.
My
There's a
parents
language.
came. My dad knew English, but my mom learned when she came here,
That's right. That's right.
and she
All right.
wanted to fit in.
Yep. Let's keep going. Serial line Washington Post staff begs for a new sugar daddy after Bezos layoffs. So the Washington Post staffers face massive deserved layoffs, deserved being my word, and section closures amid heavy losses, $100 million a year. And they're signaling they want a new billionaire sugar daddy. As if money grows on trees, if Jeff Bezos won't be subsidizing their ideological storytelling. So just real quick, the Washington Post Guild issued a statement. The paper is killing its sports. As a sports guy who helped commercialize the whole industry, their sports has always been inconsequential. It's been a waste of money. And I don't say that because I don't care for the Washington Post. It's like even during that time, we never went to the Washington Post. We knew their beat reporter, but we just innately never went to them for sports. Then they're killing their book and podcast sections. The Post workforce has shrunk by roughly 400 people over the last 3 years. Again, they are effectively calling for a new billionaire sugar daddy. Now we're talking years of plunging subscriptions, financial losses, and now the staff has been shrinking over the years. And the journalists never seriously reconsidered their approach. We're losing people, we're losing money, we're losing subscriptions. Maybe we need to look in the mirror and start changing. They never looked at it that way. Instead, they just think somebody else can come in and flip the bill. So the new cuts are going to slash roughly 1/3 of the Post total staff, eliminate, again, the sports and book sections, and significantly downsize metro and international coverage. So does the Post see Bezos as nothing but a servant for them, whose job it is to lose $100 million a year because he's a billionaire and in their eyes can afford it? From a paper that has been caught pushing hoaxes and misinformation instead of rebuilding trust. So in essence, is this a newsroom that feels entitled to someone else's money rather than accountable to its readers who have been clearly walking away from them for years?
Yeah, how many newspapers can Democrat read in a day? They got the New York Times. They're not going to go, oh, well, let me see what the Washington Post is saying. Look, they got to cater to a different audience, a wider audience. But this is a business. They're there to make money, not just to suck up investment money and flitter it away on a bunch of salaries and prints. that's fine. I think Bezos is making the right decision. Look, the Democrats still have the New York Times. They can read that. The Washington Post journalists, they want to keep their job, and
Correct.
they don't understand economics.
Correct. Annette, let me toss this question towards you. Why is Jeff Bezos silent? I mean, they kind of tried to ridicule him. Oh, he's on his yacht right now. Why is he on his yacht? He should be here. Who cares? If he can afford a yacht, be on a yacht. So be it. Why is he being silent? Why was he silent? Still really hasn't come out and said anything.
No, I mean, I don't know if I think that that's cutthroat of him. I feel like as a person who's like a capitalist, you're not going to keep on pouring money into something that's not making a profit. It's sort of maybe that simple for him, unless maybe he's got some plans and he is not ready to share them about what, no, but what is going to remain, right? That he wants to try something different. The shakeup is happening right now, like at CBS, right, with Barry Weiss. I'm not sure yet how that's going to play out. I don't think anyone really knows how it's going to play out. It seems like it's undecided, and it's very uncertain times there right now. But he might have some ideas, or he might be talking to people about it, or trying to salvage parts of it that he can. That could be why he's silent. He might not be sure where they're headed, but he's decided this is a loss. How much of a loss am I going to take and for how long? So
Right. So my take, I'm going to have to respond to the CBS, and Leslie Stahl should be fired along with the rest of them. For Barry Weiss to survive and thrive and grow that at CBS, she's got to get Paramount and Larry Ellison behind her. She's got to fire some big talking heads. In times of concern, in times of war, times of issues, you take out the top dog of the other side and the rest will fall in line. Period. End of story. It's happened multiple times throughout history. Take out the big dogs there. You come out publicly and state with examples, we have fallen. This is what this show did in the past, and we are going to rebuild it. And this is why we got rid of these people. The fact that they're trying to just, kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, put a piece here, put a piece there, and then try that. And there's just 8-year lows in their ratings. It's like going cold turkey. Out with ode and with you. That's what CBS has to do. The New York Times has been successful. Let me explain the New York Times here real quick. I love the Athletic, and they bought the Athletic. I don't do sports anymore, so I was looking to cut costs back. Don't need to be paying $60 a year. And it's very affordable because you get the best news. Hands down, the Athletic, the best news in sports in America. But I'm like, I don't need it anymore. Subscribe. I got a text or an immediate email. We'd love to keep you on a subscriber for the year. $9.99 for the year. I'm like, you won me over, New York Times. So I say this with a caveat because the New York Times still believes in the advertiser-driven space. And that's why they allow me to have $50 off, literally. So come next year, I'm going to do the same thing. You don't give me that $10 a year, then I'm going to walk. And they will, because that's part of their programming, because they make the money on the back end with advertisers. But they have added 1.4 million net digital subscribers in 2025. They've got a total of about 13 million digital subscribers. They have an RPU, for you people who don't know. Average revenue per user is at about $9.72. Okay, so I'm wrong. It's not $9.99. It's $9.72. And 14% revenue growth. Apple lost about 50% from 2020 peaks, and now they're layoffs 30% plus of staff. So the New York Times bundles their games like Wordy, cooking, sports via the Athletic, and 20% digital ad surge offset print declines. The WAPO is relying on a shrinking print, less than 100,000 circulation, and political focus, posting 100 million losses. My final caveat is, when I started my fantasy sports company, I knew I couldn't rely on subscriptions, and we had one of the larger databases. So I was one of the ones who was in the forefront with technology. I'm not a tech guy, but I knew technology was the future. I was able to predict, to my own shock. I'm like, I can do this. I'm pretty good. Losses incurred when Hurricane Katrina hit, for example. I knew the losses we get from that area, the percentage. I diversified us into subscriptions, into sponsorships, and into advertising. Into those three. There was one more thing: business to business, business to. And we would create content for, like, if you did fantasy sports in the late '90s up to about 2005, 2008, before I sold the company. If you were on Yahoo, on NFL, CBS, on others, that was our work you were seeing. They branded it as theirs, but we were doing the work. So I diversified. Apple has done none of that, and that is why they are in this hole. What Jeff Bezos must do is go to the New York Times, hey, whoever built that empire, their new empire up, quadruple their money because it'll be worth it, and come rebuild WAPO.
Mhm.
10 seconds each on what I've just said. Add to it your own thoughts. G.
No, I mean, I don't have much to say. I'm not a media guy, but I that makes sense to me. And in the end, you got to be advertiser centric rather than subscribers, because the consumer is very price sensitive right now.
Correct. Oh, I was. It's like, yeah, $60, you know, 10. And
Maybe Jeff Bezos' silence is he's doing something like that. He's trying to figure out how to reorganize or how to repackage it or how to get, you know what I mean, and make this
Right.
more enticing for people. He could be doing that, isn't saying anything till he's ready to come out and you know, with an idea or with a plan. It's possible.
Or
So
he could just he just could
he
be on
might
the
just
yacht.
he might just call you, William, and
Yeah. No, he won't, because I go there. Have a newsroom meeting. Be like 3 of them in a 6-month time
Or
and just whack him as I
like,
replace him.
off with their heads.
Yes.
Yes.
Jeff Bezos is probably on his yacht, just happy that a nerd like him, all kinds of drugs and look buff and fit, has a hot chick now, finally. You know? That's what he's doing. All right.
Pilar's beautiful too, by the way.
Yeah, but she's much older now than his second wife. That's what men of power do. Yeah, statistically, I am right.
Phil has no power. So maybe he'll
There you go. All righty. Okay, final topic. This has been a couple of minutes. We're at the 110 mark here. But a California appeals court overturned ex-UCLA gynecologist James Heap's sexual abuse conviction over a juror language error, forcing traumatized survivors back into a retrial. So, well, in essence, I'm not going to go through my notes, but in essence, what happened was a juror was even worse than my mom with her broken English. Huh? I don't understand. Can you repeat? Didn't understand what was happening. Didn't understand the defense, the prosecution. There was a language barrier. Should never have been put in as a juror. But in today's politically correct leftist California world, he was put on the juror. So this raised concerns that this alternate juror's limited English was preventing proper deliberations, and this violated Heath's Sixth Amendment right. What is the Sixth Amendment? I'm glad you two asked. The Sixth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution guarantees key rights to criminal defendants during prosecutions, speedy and public trial by an impartial jury from the crime classification, notice of charges, and rights to confront, cross-examine witnesses, the ability to compel favorable witnesses, access to a lawyer, etc. So how you're like, that's not really directed. This must extend to the jury being able to understand what's
Right.
happening to come up with a proper decision. This guy, and look, I'm sorry, if he's at UCLA happily working, odds are he's a liberal, accused of sexually assaulting hundreds of patients over a 35-year career, convicted in October 2022 of 3 counts of sexual battery by fraud and 2 counts of sexual penetration. This guy's a sick individual. Sexual penetration involving 2 patients and sentenced to 11 years. Number 15, numero 15, was not able to understand cause to vote guilty or not guilty and admitted, hey, I don't understand. It interfered his limited English with understanding the testimony. He came back and said, no, I understand, but he really didn't. And it was the judge's responsibility to inform the prosecuting defendant he didn't either, because he thought it was a withdrawn issue. He may have thought it was withdrawn. That defense said, no, senor, do you understand that? And the judge, when they appealed, agreed. Now, the clients are devastated, and this is where I have issue with the clients. They say you are sending a message that victims, especially women and children, do not matter, which I think is a complete horse bleep lie. You know, nothing can trump a person's individual rights. The judge screwed up. If you want to be angry at the judge, because LA's going to appeal this. I mean, they're going to take it to another trial and he'll be convicted. Now, my discussion point on this is the women say they do not matter. But is that true? And is this more of a cause of wokeism at its most extreme by allowing someone who couldn't understand deliberations to serve on a jury? We'll start with you, G, before we get the woman's point of view.
Yeah, I mean, so in a trial, okay, let me understand, because I didn't read up on this completely. So this alternate juror actually got seated.
Yes.
It was one of the 12 who actually voted. Okay, so one, when you and most of us have served, I'm assuming, or the people watching this have served on a jury. You're vetted by both
Yes,
lawyers,
both sides, yes.
right? So, but at some point, each side loses the number of strikes. So I'm guessing by the time you get to the end of the pool, you're having to seat people without really wanting to because you lost your strikes, right? So that's why he was placed as number 15. So it was at the very end. So
That's right.
I'm just trying to understand this, and you're seeing me kind of calculate this in real time. I do think that is this wokeism? Maybe, but I mean, even if the guy, the Heaps is the guy's the convicted felon's name, he was convicted. Even if he was convicted, you still want to make sure that it's fair, right? And you want to make sure that, okay, if some guy is sitting there in the jury room not understanding anything and just saying, yeah, guilty, guilty, let's just get this guy through. You just want to make sure it's all above board. I find it hard to believe that this guy would not understand testimony, not understand, I can make crude hand motions, but what was going on and what's being explained. And the whole time he's just faking it. Like, I find that hard to believe. They found some technicality, got this guy off, and we run the risk of making him go free, because a second trial could be a mistrial or a hung jury or whatnot. So it's unfortunate, but that's our system. That's our system. You want to make sure everyone goes through the system properly.
English comprehension is a structural requirement for a valid jury. Alternates are not as scrutinized, including the possibility of strikes being lost.
Right, but that just leads to the point. Like, okay, something happened, and this is not a fair trial because the guy did not understand English.
Right.
Okay, so as you were typing, I was looking it up. Jurors are asked, "Do you understand English?" "Si,
Yes.
senor."
Yeah, they
"Can you
are.
follow the evidence?" "Yes, essay." "Can you understand the judge's instruction?" "Mm-hmm." You're selected.
And isn't it his responsibility as someone who might be part of a jury to communicate that? Like,
Well, judges
perhaps
and
his responsibility as well.
well, no, nobody's ever going to put the blame on the juror here. That's just not
Well, wait a minute.
politically.
No, I mean, there's two ways. Like what G said, it is true because I was a part of this whole thing from my trial. Our lawyers had to say okay, their lawyers had to say okay, and then a juror was picked. Same, and actually the same with the people that were the alternatives. So again, it might not be the same level of scrutiny, but we had alternate jurors as well who had to go through a similar process. I mean, there's responsibility more on the lawyers, yes, but also the jurors are also read, like you said, like what are the responsibilities that you incur as a juror? You're taking this responsibility seriously. You're deciding the fate of a situation, right? I mean, there is a responsibility. You are given those
To a good moral person, yeah, honestly. I mean, that's why they have that's why they have people hire Dr. Phil. He originally made his money. That was his job. Juries, figuring juries out, picking the people, understanding them
Right.
during the reading. I guess
You
in
feel
LA
this was a
County.
trick?
No, in LA County, supposedly, I was just reading up that the judges and they go through that part of it really quick because they got so many cases, so many people. It's just gone through very quick. So they do rely on the person being honest. In this case, it wasn't. But my question to you, Annette, is this
Do I think
this
the women
isn't anybody going to women you don't matter. This is more a screw up that's technical, and we have a constitution we have to abide by. So are the women just they're just being mean? I'm being polite. They're just being mean and vicious here for the wrong reason. They have a right to be angry, but not at how they feel they're being seen, but at how the system is set up.
1000%. It's just that their anger is misdirected. But that is
Correct.
a frustrating problem that happened. And can you imagine if, this is true and we don't know this person? I don't know if they've been I don't know where this if this person did this or not, but let's just say that
Oh
that
no,
they
no,
did.
the evidence is pretty clear.
Oh, okay. So that's very depraved behavior by a doctor. So I can see already like they're emotionally, not unhinged, but emotionally just, probably destroyed in a lot of ways. They've lost their faith in one institution, the medical institution, and now in another institution that has failed them. That's frustrating. That's all. But maybe they're just misdirecting it and saying, because we're women. But in a way, they've just been basically dismissed and treated wrongly by two major institutions of our society, especially when you feel, and I've been here before, where you're looking at those scales of Lady Justice and you think, is this a place that I'm going to come and I'm going to feel like I have been well served and I have been treated justly? Is this a place where I'm going to be able to somehow like right a wrong that has happened to me? Can you just imagine going through all of that and then it being sidelined just because the system is just so broken and it's so apathetic?
My take is simple. This is wokeism. They need to make sure we need to learn English. The main reason is English is the number one language in the business world. You learn English, the odds of you getting a job, especially in this part of the country, the Southwest, doubles exponentially. But instead, no, you do not have to learn English essay, and you can sit there and allow bad people to get off. That's what I see here. I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm saying that's one angle that I'm looking at. All right, let's get to a case that Annette probably understands here. I'm talking about having to go to court.
Yes, I do understand that.
Detransitioners but you're not detransitioning though. Detransitioners $2 million malpractice win against New York doctors over teen double mastectomy. This made the news, but came and went. Why? They didn't fit the mainstream media narrative.
Yeah.
A New York jury awarded a detransition woman $2 million after finding her doctors committed malpractice by pushing an irreversible double mastectomy on her as a 16-year-old. I predicted this years ago. I said, all this is going to come. And my next prediction, the suicide rate is going to exponentially jump amongst the transgender community because of nonsense like this. So she had a double mastectomy she underwent at the age 16. Psychologist Kenneth Einhorn and surgeon Simon Chin were found liable for medical malpractice for ignoring standards of care by pressuring Varian to treat gender dysphoria with top surgery rather than saying, let's talk about it, And on a side note, there's a case from Colorado that the Supreme Court heard will decide in June that dealt with a psychologist or psychiatrist, I forget which is which, where they were taken to court because the psychiatrist was, oh, you think you're transgender? Well, let's talk about it. And the state of Colorado says, no, you cannot talk about that. So this just adds to it. Varian was awarded $1.6 million for past and future pain and suffering and $400,000 for future medical expenses. She got ripped off because her life will never, ever be the same. It's the first detransitioner malpractice case in the U.S. to go to trial and result in a win. And Trump's administration has moved to restrict gender-related medical interventions for minors. I've been talking about this on my other podcasts a lot. So the discussion point, the first one, we'll go to G, and then for the next one, we'll go to that. Is this the beginning of the end for the current transgender model for kids as more young adults wake up and realize what was done to them, especially as the young kids get into their teenage years? I know you're not a doctor, but I'm sure you stayed at a Holiday Inn, so the floor is yours.
Yeah. So Holiday Inn Express. No, I think I'm all for, if you choose to do something, you got to take personal responsibility for your actions. However, as we know with Epstein, you can't consent under 18, right? So here, the doctors force this person to consent, and you can't consent. And I firmly believe that. For something as complex of an issue as this, remember, LGBTQ, they talk two sides of one coin. They say, well, I was born this way, you can't change me. And then the transgenders say, well, I was born the wrong way and I can change and fix it, right? So it's like, well, which one is it? You're contradicting yourself. In this case, you can't leave that to someone who's under 18 to make this life-altering decision that they have to live with 50, 60, 70, 80 years into the future. So is this going to break is this the beginning of the end for the transgender model for kids? I hope so, but I don't think a lot of people are hearing about this case. So I think it's just one more drop in that sea that says, okay, we're going to stop this, stop hurting our kids, stop damaging our kids, wait till they're adults, and then push your ideology on them when they can better fight against it, or they can accept it and take responsibility for it.
Hey, Annette, this case centers on trusted professionals fast tracking to add on the G here, fast tracking an irreversible double mastectomy instead of exhaustive, non-invasive options. Let me give you guys another example. I have high cholesterol. If I went to physical years, you got high cholesterol, son, I strongly recommend this. I said, okay, give me the prescription. That full bottle's still sitting. What I did was I went and researched diet. This is what I can do. And that's what I'm doing first. Why? I don't need a drug and the side effects first. I'm going to try the natural way. That's what they did not do. So does this vindicate conservatives that schools, counselors, Doctors and ideologically driven parents are not neutral observers, but active participants steering kids toward radical, irreversible medicalization.
Well, I've got to first speak to what G said really quickly, because the answer to that is, of course, absolutely yes. And maybe it didn't make the mainstream news like we would hope that it would, but I'll tell you where it did make it. It made it to the medical community. There is nothing that doctors and hospitals fear more than being sued. So they all know that they were sued, and they know, believe me, that those people won something. And you're right, it was nominal, not what they probably deserved for, like you said, a lifelong, complications are all the things that go with having a double mastectomy and all of that, and just emotional pain and suffering, all of it. So it wasn't really that much when you think about it, even $400,000 for future.
Chump change.
Yeah, it wasn't. But it set a bit of a precedent.
Correct.
Because they won, and because they're so insanely scared of being sued. So bravo that this jury went along and it went against the doctors and said this should not be happening. That is absolutely huge. It will give doctors pause. I really believe that it will.
Oh, I think it's done. I think it's completely done.
Precedent has been set and we lost. You know what I'm saying? And these people that have gotten these surgeries that might come back and sue us and win money, we're really going to take our time to talk about other options or whatever. So
Right.
that I agree the medical community knows about this. I think that is a done deal. They're afraid of it now. Great. So, but what you said was about
Conservatives. Does this vindicate conservatives
yeah,
and what we've been battling?
it definitely helps, right? It's not over, unfortunately. And I think that with the different change of administration, this is gonna circle back also. But I think also what is happening is that, there was that shooting in Canada, right?
Mhm.
We're still seeing that this is a troubling problem with people who might have it, and maybe there's different ways to approach it and help people, and rushing into cutting off body parts might not be the first choice, and there's maybe a community of people, parents, and we can have more conversation, but conversations that aren't just like, this is what we must do, we must just only
Gotcha.
affirm. There's a big conversation to have.
Gotcha. Gotcha. No, I understand. My take is real simple, as I've kind of said already. Look, this does vindicate conservatives because logic will dictate what's going to happen because of human nature. And I know Annette doesn't like me saying that a lot in terms of human nature, but it's true. As we saw with this case, she realized the double mastectomy. Now, some of the teenagers may not be able to sue because their parents won't go for it. Just full blown leftists, and they don't care that they damned their kids for the rest of their lives. But as these kids become adults into their 20s and 30s, and they develop into full grown adults capable of independent thought, this narrative will go from this saved my life because my parents told me it was saving my life, the counselor told me it was saving my life, the doctor told me it was saving my life, to I am now saying, my own mind is saying, what did you do to me? And that's when this entire system will really start to scramble. Why? Because it's not hard to prove, And my next question, let's keep this one short, about 30 seconds each. Will we see lawsuits eventually coming against entertainment vehicles such as Netflix? 40% of Netflix children's programming is pushing and promoting LGBTQ plus, not LGBT, but not LGB, but LGBTQ plus programming. Senator Josh Hawley in Senate hearing cited a Concerned Woman for America report alleging I was wrong. 41% of Netflix kids' family shows include LGBTQ themes, framing it as nearly half and questioning the CEO as to highly sexualized content. Now, this wasn't just a handful of shows, over 326 shows, 41% titles and 33% overall had LGBTQ content, including trans, non-binary, including 21% in preschool style shows. So not quite over 50%, but they're trending up that way. Do you think that lawsuits will come towards these as showing you helped indoctrinate my kids? This is America. They sue for anything. So we know the lawsuits will come, but do you think they should come? Do you think Netflix has any responsibility? Gee, 30 seconds.
Well, yeah, I mean, does the sun rise in the east? Yeah, you're right. They will come, but they will lose. And they will lose because we have the freedom of speech and they can make whatever shows they want, promoting whatever ideology or doctrine that they want to, and you don't have to watch. And that the judge will say that's correct, or the jury will say that's correct. Lawsuit thrown out, or ruled in favor of the defendant. So yeah, that's my thought.
Annette.
My 30-second thing is similar to G's, only because as a parent, you can, especially when they're younger, like we talk about the preschool, it's concerning, but you can definitely control that with the young ones.
Hey, look at that. So you both are correct, but that never stops a lawsuit.
No,
And
but they
all
won't
they
win.
need, though they will win in certain cases. I'm not saying they will win, but many lawsuits that they shouldn't have won. Big pharma gets sued. There's like 2 or 3 states that they get sued in all the time. And they're like Missouri, a few states like that. There was a study done on this. Why? Because the juries get blockbuster winnings there. I mean, not the jury, but the people bringing it to court, regardless of what the law is. So that's what trial lawyers do. They will get, as the plaintiffs, and we're talking massive lawsuits. This was a college study. So what happened? Big Pharma started settling out of court. Cheaper to settle out of court. Have a jury award them $100 million. So same thing with CNN, with what they were saying about that ex-sailor working for the government who was working for corporations to get the corporations people out of Afghanistan. CNN framed him as a terrible human being, only working for the rich, this or that. They settled out of court with him because the what's it called when you lose? He lost he won $5 million, but then they come and they can put exponentially more that phase of the trial. And sure enough, they settled out with him, and they talked to the jury. They're like, "Yeah, we were talking $100 million settled, for this guy to win." So they settled out. All you need is one case to go your way. And as you said earlier, precedent is set.
Yes.
So they will get sued, and you will see we will never hear of many of these lawsuits because they will be quietly settled, and you will see Netflix's programming start to be pulled back. That's what I predict will happen. But everybody's correct here. We're all right because it's human nature. Nothing is ever black and white. Any final comments about tonight's show? We ran about 1:30, but it was a good show, guys. Loved it, enjoyed it. I noticed other shows that go 2.5 hours. They talk 6, 8 topics. We managed to squeeze this in with good information. I hope y'all enjoyed it, audience. Any final words about tonight's topics? G.
No, I think in the end, like, we just talk common sense here, right? All of these topics, it's all about what does the average person think, and it's clear when you think through things clearly, and you don't think through like the wokeism. And we got to respect we do have to respect all different opinions, but we don't have to like cater to everything out there in order to say, hey, well, the minority viewpoint needs to be pushed on the majority, when clearly that shouldn't be the case. So
I agree. Annette, any final words?
No, I just want to send out some love to my co-hosts here for Valentine's Day. That's it.
Don't tell Bill. All right, everybody. That's our show. I'm looking at the record button. I'm like, did I hit it? Don't forget to check out our workout and subscribe, or give us a follow and support our all-volunteer team here at Grumblings Media. For G and Annette, I am William Del Pilar, your happy conservative Latino, and you've been listening to Fired Up Conservative Talk Hot Takes. Until next week, we are out. Hey, everybody, this is William Del Pilar, founder of Grumblings Media, and I want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our all-volunteer efforts at Grumblings Media, smash the subscribe button right here. 100% free, and please consume and share our great content. Click either one of these 2 boxes for more of our work.